What's up, humans, and welcome to a new Psicoactivo. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Okay, so thank you for the support for yesterday's videos. That was amazing. I hope you liked them. I stumbled upon a conference given by Eric Weinstein, and I wanted to talk about what he said there, but I also want to share a few clips that are like complementary of what Eric Weinstein is saying. And I want to go through the scientism that has originated from an overclassification of entire areas of physics since the Cold War until today, and how that has affected the entire conversation about the nature of reality and how we experience the nature of reality. Because when those areas were classified and the mainstream scientific establishment decided to stagnate many fields, not just physics, it's many fields. So this has inevitably brought forward scientism. And to give you a better explanation of what scientism is, I have my good friend Alex Gomez Marin talking about it and how it affects scientific progress. And this is at the core right now of what is preventing us from accessing those areas of new edge science that are not allowing us to understand what is going on. And I am so glad that Eric Weinstein finally is talking about this more openly. And this is all thanks to Marc Andreesen, the entrepreneur, because he spoke about it months ago. And now Eric is kind of echoing the same sentiment. But let's look at Alex and what he says about scientism.
Science is a great invention of the human mind that has flourished over the last 400 years in the West, but science does not have the monopoly on the real. The humanities need to be taken seriously. All traditions need to be taken very seriously. And we can be proud of science, but we must always remember to ourselves and to the rest that scientists have different values, different priors, different opinions. And so we should not present science as this one monolithic sets of truths that either you're with them or you're stupid. This is really damaging science. And I think that's why we and others are just speaking up and saying, stop that bullshit. Science is this tightrope exercise of pruning error, but also nurturing the growth of new ideas. Skepticism is great. Doubt is very useful. It's necessary. I think all good scientists are skeptics. The problem is when skepticism becomes a kind of knee-jerk reflex, sort of pseudo-religious habit in the name of science, and then it becomes dogmatic skepticism. And dogmatic skeptics doubt about everything except their own doubts and except their own beliefs.
Being a skeptic comes down to this. You are presented with a piece of information, and in essence you go, what?
Debunkers. They're not real skeptics in a true philosophical sense at all to me. They seem to have their minds made up in advance that everything associated with parapsychology has to be incorrect.
On the one hand, science should pursue what William James called these stubborn facts, attend to minute particulars, but at the same time, reason should put them together and abstractions should give us a bigger picture. So that's why science needs, of course, empirical work, but as the joke says, here's the data, and then the expert says, very nice, but does it work in theory?
This is essentially what we're fighting against. And after this, I want to show you what Marc Andreesen said in a podcast called Honestly with Barry Weiss. And this is really concerning. The first time I heard it, I couldn't believe it. And now that Eric Weinstein is echoing this is what we're up against in the scientific world. And this type of attitude has been the main reason why many scientists have adopted this dogmatic approach to science, because of this overclassification. Because it's not just the classification, there's a whole system put in place of disparaging other up and coming theories, other ideas, thinking outside of the box, all of that. That is part of the entire system. And I'm just glad that people are speaking up about it more. So let's hear what Marc Andreesen said. Here
We
it
had
is.
meetings in DC in May where we talked to them about this, and the meetings were absolutely horrifying, and we came out basically deciding we had to endorse Trump.
Mark, add so little color to absolutely horrifying. What did you hear in those meetings?
They said, look, AI is one of these technology. AI is a technology basically that the government is going to completely control. This is not going to be a startup thing. They actually said flat out to us, don't do AI startups. Like don't fund AI startups. It's not something that we're going to allow to happen. They're not going to be allowed to exist. There's no point. They basically said AI is going to be a game of 2 or 3 big companies working closely with the government, and we're going to basically wrap them in a, I'm paraphrasing, but we're going to basically wrap them in a government cocoon. We're going to protect them from competition. We're going to control them, and we're going to dictate what they do. And then I said, well, yeah, I don't understand how you're going to lock this down so much, because like the math for, AI is like out there and it's being taught everywhere. And, they literally said, well, during the Cold War, we classified entire areas of physics, and took them out of the research community, and like entire branches of physics basically went dark and didn't proceed. And that if we decide we need to, we're going to do the same thing to the math underneath AI.
When I heard this, I could not believe it. And this is coming from one of the world's most important entrepreneurs. And he has access to people high up in the government, to the presidential cabinet, essentially, because he's a tech mogul, like Elon, like the folks at Google, like Mark Zuckerberg, like Sam Altman. And you can only imagine what he felt when he heard this. And this completely connects to the entire UFO world, because back in the Cold War, I don't know if you guys remember, Tom DeLonge was one of the people that said that in the Cold War they found the life form. And if you haven't been paying attention, the entire UFO topic deals with new physics, edge science, the understanding of the nature of reality, and also UFOs. But UFOs are part of all of that. Consciousness is part of that too. And it's all interconnected. So when I heard this, I gasped because I couldn't believe it, but it also makes sense. And everything in science that has happened since makes sense. And now Eric Weinstein is sort of blowing the whistle on this. And he's telling you when exactly this stagnation started, and it's tied to this overclassification of entire fields of science and physics. So let's see what Eric Weinstein said. So this is from a conference. It's a 17-minute clip on YouTube. It's called Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. That's the name of the channel. And the name of the lecture is called You're in a War and You Don't Even Know It. And this is a conversation with Eric Weinstein where he talks about this overclassification of entire fields of physics and science. And please listen to what he says and let me know what you think.
The problem is that the culmination of all human theory about the base reality stagnated abruptly and mysteriously in 1973. Imagine that physics stopped when Crocodile Rock was top of the charts. Everything we know about the physical universe at its deepest level is on this slide in front of you, and it hasn't moved. Now, recently, many of you have seen that Marc Andreesen had a meeting at the White House, and at that meeting, something fantastic was revealed. The Biden White House told him that they had stagnated deliberately fields of theoretical physics. Read that quote. It should send chills down your spine. This graph shows the youngest living Nobel laureate in theory, in theoretical physics theory. That number is always below the age of 50, until this magical point where string theory enters the game as a theory of quantum gravity. And our youngest living Nobel laureate is now over the age of 70 because the field is not producing new results. This is also terrible, but it turns wonderful, because if we can find the problem, we can make progress and reach the stars. Change AI to physics, technology to science, and startups to alternative theories in reading the following quote, and you will see what they did. They took a couple of theories, they cocooned them, string theory being preeminent among them, and they said all competitor theories will die, and in the field of physics, it's called the only game in town. You try to do something else, your career comes to an abrupt end. Now, how do you fool the world's smartest people into a soft sunset? A soft sunset is one where you decommission something, but you don't tell the people being decommissioned that their careers are coming to an end. You get them to repeat something over and over again, that quantum gravity is the holy grail. Quantum gravity is the holy grail. All the questions center on what is the theory of quantum gravity. Quantum gravity is the holy grail of theoretical physics. You perseverate. And if you say something enough times, it becomes as if true. But if it was the Holy Grail, why is there no mention of it in the corpus of English language books before 1972, right before physics stagnated? It is because there is no theory of quantum gravity in the way that they're looking for it. Quantum gravity is safe. You can invite your Iranian and your North Korean and your Russian and your Chinese students to do quantum gravity, and nobody's going to get hurt. Now, here are my final thoughts. In November of '52, there's an error in this. We learned that Earth is our womb, not our home. We cannot stay here because we have to go. We cannot all share one atmosphere safely. The tools are too powerful. If an indefinite human future can be restored, and I believe that it can, there is one way out, and that's physics. And Mike Lazaridis, if you're out there somewhere, thank you for building the Perimeter Institute of Theoretical Physics to do this. I'm sorry it got taken over by quantum gravity. We have to go beyond Einstein because we are simply not capable of getting to the stars if we have a speed limit set at c. Western science must lead the way. Vivek Ramaswamy is convinced that somehow China and India are pulling ahead of the West. This is not true. The greatest threat comes from France, the world's greatest mathematicians. If we are prepared to take on India and China, are we prepared to take on Paris and Marseille? I put this to you. I believe that the end of physics is almost in sight. It may bring us wonders. It may bring us the ability to traverse the cosmos. This could be the greatest time. We have a brief period of vitality before the wars will surely start if we choose to revitalize. We must use it well, and our greatest challenges are ahead, but I think we're going to make it, and I think that the future will be amongst the stars and be glorious indeed. Thank you all very much.
So yeah, what Eric Weinstein is essentially telling you is that this is the time. This is when things change. This is just before the singularity happens. This is what's going on. And this is the reason why everything seems extremely accelerated. This is the reason why there is so much division. It's complete chaos out there. This is exactly what also Terence McKenna said that would happen just before the time when we were going to depart to the stars, that everything was going to get really weird.
It's only going to get weirder. The level of contradiction is going to rise excruciatingly, even beyond the excruciating present levels of contradiction. So I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. And at that point, novelty theory can come out of the woods, because eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's just too nuts. It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. I look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, and at the same time, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, race baiting, homophobia, famine, starvation, because the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed. The collapse of the socialist world, the rise of the internet, these are changes so immense, nobody could imagine them ever happening. And now that they have happened, nobody even bothers to mention what a big deal it is. The mushroom said to me once, it said, this is what it's like when a species prepares to depart for the stars. You don't depart for the stars under calm and orderly conditions. It's a fire in a madhouse. And that's what we have, the fire in the madhouse at the end of time. This is what it's like when a species prepares to move on to the next dimension. The entire destiny of all life on the planet is tied up in this. We are not acting for ourselves or from ourselves. We happen to be the point species on a transformation that will affect every living organism on this planet at its conclusion.
And I just wanted to cover this and talk about it because I think it's really important. I think that we can talk about UFOs all day, but we also need to understand the entire scope of what's going on in terms of reality. It's not just UFOs, it's consciousness, it's ESP, it's edge science, it's understanding how the establishments are currently still under control, but they're about to relinquish that control because they can't keep it any longer. The world is way too interconnected in this day and age for it to just remain stagnated, because the world is stagnated. It's not just science. And we're stagnated because of this consumerism model, which is what moves the world. Don't get it twisted. What moves the world is money, it's capital. And we need to find a way to learn how to coexist using that, yes, to our advantage, but not abusing it as it's been done since the Industrial Revolution basically started. And I'm glad that people are speaking up more, especially when it comes to science, because that is one of the fields that it's going to be hardest to change the perception of people within the world of science, because they grew up with a very specific set of standards. And those who don't like to think outside of the box and that are very sequestered by this dogmatic approach to science, those are going to be the ones that suffer the hardest ontological shock. But we can do it. I think that we can, with lectures like the ones Weinstein gave, with people like Dr. Alex Gomez Marin, who are very much speaking up against this stagnation and against this dogma and against this stigma in science. Those are the ones that are going to be leading the charge when we have to change things, when the time comes to change things and to get ready to travel to stars. I don't know what you guys think about it. That also coincides with the whole understanding of what this NHI is. We still don't know. There's a lot of debate right now. The debate, it's moving towards a more religious aspect of it, which I really don't like. I think that we need to, as I told you before, find a more default mode to talk about this. But baby steps, right? Like, it's not an easy conversation to have. And anybody could be right, really, because we don't know what we're dealing with, really. So let's stay open-minded and try to just communicate with each other so we can learn the sensibility of the people in front of us. But yeah, let me know what you think about this. What do you think about Marc Andreesen's shocking revelations from a few months ago? What do you think about Eric Weinstein's conversation about this and echoing what Andreesen said? And what do you think about this scientism concept that Alex Gomez Marin is talking about? Do you think there is a dogmatic side to science, to the scientific establishment? Or do you think there isn't? Please tell me what you think about all of this in the comments. If you like the content you see, I'm going to ask you to like, share, comment, subscribe, hype, and hit the bell icon. That's all you need to do in order to help us, and it is what helps us the most. So thank you. But if you want to support us in other ways, there's a few links down there you can choose from. You can become a member on YouTube, or you can support us through KGRA. Anything you choose to do is always appreciated, so thank you. That's it for me today on this video, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, stay curious and inquisitive like Dr. Alex Gomez Marin. Always. Bye.
Psicoactive.